But now, it is my honor to introduce our keynote this morning. Speaker Dade Phelan of Beaumont is the 76th Speaker of the Texas House and is currently serving in his fourth term from State House District 21. Prior to serving as Speaker, he served as chair of the House Committee on State Affairs, as well as other important committees during his time as a member in the House. In addition to his duties as Speaker, Phelan works as a real estate developer at his family's fourth-generation commercial real estate development firm, which owns, manages retail, industrial, and office property in Texas and Arkansas. His wife, Kim, is a practicing attorney, and together they have four, probably say, very active sons. And he and his family reside in Southeast Texas, where Speaker Phelan was born and raised, and he received his bachelor's degree in government and business right here at the University of Texas. Of course, all of that is a formal biography of Speaker Phelan, and it's important. And it's important because it is part of the measure of the man. Dade Phelan has lived a life of honor to God and family. But this is not why he is here today, nor, and this is the point, is it why he stands in the august lineage of the speakers of the Texas House. No one understands this better than he does, though. Dade Phelan isn't Speaker because of what he has done. Dade Phelan is Speaker because of what he will do. It is always a risk to share anticipation as if it were already history, and there's a lot of work left to be done in this legislative session. But that work is directed and deliberate, and it unfolds due to the work of the members under the stewardship of this Speaker. Upon it rest the hopes of Texans today and tomorrow alike. And I believe firmly, when we look back on this legislative session, we will see that he has presided over one of the most consequential sessions in the history of the state of Texas, one of countless conservative victories that have built on many conservative victories of last session. And I know Speaker Phelan sees that promise. That's why he's Speaker, that's why he's here, and that's why I'm proud to call him a friend. So please join me in welcoming the Speaker of the Texas House, Dade Phelan.
Yes, William Travis, I am not, so I'd prefer that, not have that comparison there. But thank you for that wonderful introduction, Greg, and thank you for having me here today, and also happy Texas Independence Day again. Can't be said enough, obviously. What an honor to sit at the same table with Phil Gramm, one of my political heroes growing up. I think it's safe to say that TPPF wouldn't exist, we wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be Speaker of the House. We wouldn't have a Republican majority if it weren't for individuals like Phil Gramm and his wife blazing the trail for us in Washington, D.C. So thank you for your leadership. It's very consequential to where we are today. Thank you. I will say I'm also wearing my baseball tie. Little League starts on Saturday. It's like Christmas morning at the Phelan household. I got 4 boys. And we start Little League on Saturday, so it's a big day in the Phelan household, and I'm ready to get home and watch first pitch there. Also, Kevin, as a fellow Longhorn, you asked when they will win the first SEC championship, and I will reply to you like I reply to many of my colleagues, the chair is not advised. So. But I do appreciate your all gas, no brakes as well, as an ode to the Texas Longhorns. Thank you all for having me here today to kind of preview this 88th session, which we have about 90 days left, but this is when the work really starts. And if you paid attention this week, committees are all meeting. They're actually hearing bills. We cannot vote on those bills just yet. We have not hit that 60-day mark, but as soon as we do, those bills will be flying out over to Mr. Burrows' committee on calendars, and we will have a full calendar pretty darn soon, and I'm excited about that. Let me just say, not breaking news here, but Texas has a pretty good thing going. We're in a really good spot here in the state of Texas. I couldn't be more proud of it. This is the place to raise a family. This is the place to run a business. This is the best economy in the United States. And we need to make certain this 88th session that we continue that path forward. And I can tell you, people are moving here every day. 1,100 people come here every single day. They're voting with their feet. And after last session, they know exactly what they're getting themselves into when they come to the state of Texas. They know we're a conservative state. They know we value the Second Amendment. They know we value life. They know we value religious liberty. And they still come here, 1,100 people a day. They are fleeing states like California, New Jersey, and New York, and Illinois for a very good reason. They're coming to Texas, which is the land of opportunity. An opportunity we do have this session because of, unfortunately, rapid inflation. We have a once-in-a-generation surplus here at the state of Texas. And we're going to be good stewards of those dollars, and we're going to invest those dollars as well back into a state that is growing so rapidly. And if you want to know the priorities of the Texas House, look no further than House Bill 1, which has been filed by Dr. Greg Bonin, Chair of Appropriations. If you want to see the priorities of the state of Texas, just like back home, whatever you spend the most money on in your household is what you care about the most, whether it's your home, your children's education. My mother likes cats. She spends a lot of money on cats. I'm one of 7, so she replaced us with cats. My poor father. God bless him. So right off the bat, $15 billion in property tax relief. Number one item in the Texas budget. And that is important because these are taxpayer dollars, and we have a tax burden here in the state of Texas. We don't have an income tax, thankfully, and we never will have an income tax. But we do have high property taxes, we do have a high sales tax, and so we want to provide property tax relief for all Texans across the state, and I'll get to that in a moment. Another $4.6 billion in border security funding. When I was first elected in 2015, we had just increased it from $40 million to $800 million. And now we're at $4.6 billion, filling the gap that the federal government refuses to stand in. We are on our own to try to defend 1,200 miles of international border. So that is your tax dollars, and that could go towards property tax relief, it could go towards education, it could go towards health care, transportation, it could go for flood mitigation, high-speed internet. No, it's going to your southern border to do the job the federal government refuses to do. We're going to increase this, a bi-chamber deal, the House and the Senate, $2.3 billion in increased mental health bed capacity. We're hearing more and more about mental health issues across the state of Texas. I met with, speaking of the Longhorns, I met with the Chancellor of the University of Texas system and the A&M system. They've never seen a demand for mental health counseling on their universities like they have right now. John Sharp, who's been around for 50 years, said even 10 years ago, this wasn't an issue. It's a huge issue. And I'll get to that in a second when we start talking about big tech and social media. $60 million to expand nursing programs in the state. I traveled 30,000 miles during the interim, mainly to keep the Republican majority in the Texas House and grow the Republican majority, which we did from 83 to 86, including 3 new. We added 3 Hispanics from San Antonio all the way down to the valley. Thank you. We doubled the amount of women in the Republican Texas House. And this all in a cycle where Republicans were underperforming across the United States. But we had the best candidates, and we had the best plan, and we had the best message. But my point is, of those 30,000 miles, I went all across the state, and I heard about the need for more healthcare workers. Nurses are retiring post-COVID at an unbelievable rate, and there's no one in the pipeline to replace them. So we're going to do what we can to replace the professional workforce when it comes to healthcare workers. $600 million in additional school safety measures. That's on top of the $400 million that the governor, lieutenant governor, and I worked on in the interim post-Uvalde tragedy. And that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. There are over 10,000 school buildings in the state of Texas. There are 350,000 exterior doors in the state of Texas that need to be hardened. So that sounds like a lot of money, but not when you talk about over 5 million school children and keeping them safe in a more and more dangerous world in which we live. And so that may just be the very first round of funding that we're going to have to work on several sessions, because what works at a school that has a brand new building safety was actually at the forefront of their mind when designing and building it, as opposed to a school building that was built 40 years ago when safety was not a concern. It was not an issue. So we have to be very flexible and understand that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Let's go back to property tax relief, because something I'm very excited about and kind of breaking news for this crowd today. Later this afternoon, the House will file House Bill 2, and we're going to focus on property tax relief in a new way, and the likes of which we haven't done in many, many decades, in my personal opinion. If you own property in the state of Texas, if you own a business in the state of Texas, you know what it's like to pay property taxes, and there's no way out of it. You get your bill, you get your appraisal, you hold your breath and open it. It's like getting a letter from the IRS. This is not good news. So you hold your breath and you open it and you see the increase, and it takes your breath away. And then, because of the work we did in 2019, you're slowly going to start seeing the actual taxes you pay level off. Because now we're at the point where they cannot spend more than the 2.5% at the school district level and 3.5% at all other levels without going to you and asking you for more money. So you're going to start seeing the leveling off of property taxes in the state of Texas. And the Houston Chronicle wrote an article where the average folks in Harris County only saw a $60 decrease. That's better than the $600 increase that they were seeing year in, year out. So they're finally starting to see the ship turn, but we're not done. So later today, Chairman Morgan Meyer, Chair of Ways and Means, will file House Bill 2. And as of right now, your homestead is limited to a 10% increase in taxable value year in, year out. Well, we're going to reduce that to 5%, and we're going to apply it to every single piece of property in the state of Texas. Not just homesteads, we're going to apply it to everything. Small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses, timber value, you name it, it's going to be capped at 5%. And because the way I see it is we can talk about homestead exemptions all day long, and that is great. But what does that do for the small business? What's that do for that first generation small business? I have constituents who don't even own a home. They pour it all back into their business because they want the next generation. They want their children to inherit that business and move up, go to college, be independent. But when their values go up 200%, and there's nothing they can do about it but go hire an attorney to fight it, it's not right. It's not Texan. And the Texas House is going to do something about it this session. Under this proposal, a $350,000 home, just using a home as a value, will save $461 next year, $590 in 2025. And that savings will continue to grow in perpetuity as long as the individual owns that home or that piece of property. Again, this is meaningful, real relief. And I'm not in any way shutting the door on increasing the homestead exemption to $90,000 like some have proposed. Any tax savings, we'll take it. But again, at a fixed value with rising increases in appraisals, it'll be stagnant. It'll eventually go away. Some will never even see it. And again, it only applies to homesteads. We have to do something for every single landowner, property owner in the state of Texas. And so we're gonna work hard on that this session. In addition to the 15 cents compression for school district tax rates, there's an additional 10 cents in the House budget that will take the total tax reduction, which I know TPPF is in favor of a compression of over 25 cents, and that will bring the overall property tax relief to well over $17 billion, the largest property tax cut in the history of the state of Texas without argument. You cannot say that's not the largest property tax increase in history of the state of Texas. And so House Bill 2 will be the avenue in which we hopefully get that done and get it to the governor's desk. I want to highlight a few items that I've worked so well with TPPF over the last session. And I want to thank Ron Simmons and Mr. Blatt. Is David Blatt here? There you are, sir. Thank you. And I'm talking about healthcare reform, and the reason why healthcare reform needs to be highlighted, and I highlighted as a speaker, is it's something that Republicans need to own. We need to own the issue of healthcare reform. We give it away. We give it away every cycle. It's too complex, too confusing. As soon as you think you understand healthcare, it changes through federal law, lawsuits, the market. But thankfully, I made it a priority of mine. And I was shocked at how many Republican House members wanted to work on health care policy when we made it a priority. To give you an idea, the average family of four in the state of Texas spends $30,000 a year on health care. That is $2,500 a month. for healthcare costs for the average family of four. If we do not do something about it, the next generation will find someone who does do something about it. And so that's why we have to own the issue. Last session, we increased access to affordable drugs by creating the first in the nation state-based prescription drug program, using the buying power of the state of Texas to buy prescription drugs and taking the rebates and passing them on to the consumer. Unbelievable program, first in the nation to do that. We increased access to telehealth and telemedicine. We increased price transparency and disclosures. We expanded free market offerings, Mr. Simmons, for competitive health care coverage for small employers and Texans who do not qualify for Medicaid and don't have access to employer-based plans. All these were considered watershed pieces of legislation, and then all based on free market solutions. And some of you have already heard this. I'm going to say it again because I like to brag on the fact that Bobby Jindal, former governor of Louisiana, wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and said the future of healthcare reform, the conservative future of healthcare reform, it was in the Texas House in 2021 with the Healthy Family, Healthy Texas program, and every state should emulate what the Texas House did, and they're doing that now. And the good news is we're getting the band back together in the 88th. Is Dr. Oliverson here? I want to brag on Dr. Oliverson for a second, or maybe not. I may be making fun of him. But Dr. Oliverson would text me during the interim from an insurance conference multiple times and say something along the lines of, I've got some great ideas, but everyone's coming up to me, they want to know how we did this and how we did that, and can your staff send me some stuff, and we'll get it to this gentleman from Iowa, this gentleman from Indiana. I say, absolutely, let's do it. And I thought about it. Who willingly goes to an insurance conference who doesn't sell insurance? And the jokes write themselves, you know. Only an anesthesiologist would go to a conference that puts people to sleep and enjoy it, right? So you got to be someone who enjoys, falling asleep to go to an insurance conference. But the dedication was there, obviously, and Representative Click and Representative Frank, Representative Bonham, Representative Cabriglione, Cody Harris, Caroline Harris, Representative Paul, Representative Shaheen, Representative Jatan, Hull, and obviously Representative Harless, who chairs the Healthcare Reform Committee, the select committee this session, all have wonderful pieces of legislation. We're going to focus on affordability, access, empowering consumers, and improving outcomes. There's over 25 bills that we're considering for the next package of Healthy Family, Healthy Texas. Couldn't be more excited about it. And if you look at House Bill 1, again, we expand community inpatient capacity, mental health programs. We crisis services, something that the Lieutenant Governor really wanted, these mobile crisis outreach teams, and that was obviously an outcome from Uvalde, and we're going to continue to fund those this next session. Criminal justice is another issue, and I know that, is Mark Levine here? No? Mr. Levine's been fantastic. Brett Tallman's in the back. I know we've worked with Brett so much. Is he back there? There he is in the way back. There you go, sir. Thank you for being here. And Nikki Presley as well. Thank y'all so much for what y'all do for Right on Crime. I know what to do this session when it comes to criminal justice, and it's just pass everything that the Senate did not pass last session. So we passed all this wonderful bipartisan TPPF approved criminal justice reform package, and the Senate just wasn't on board with a lot of it. So we're going to pass it again. I figure if it's good enough for TPPF, it's good enough for Donald Trump, it should be good enough for the Texas Senate. Thank you. Something very important to my wife is the second look bill for juvenile offenders, closer to home, which we know that as juveniles perform better in community supervisions than putting them in the baby jail, just so they can learn to become a professional criminal. So it's better to put them in community supervision than to send them off to some faraway jail. The highest burden of proof in civil asset forfeiture, or just get rid of civil asset forfeiture. I'm fine with that too. And either we improve them or we also eliminate the no-knock warrants. And post-Uvalde, it's very important that we eliminate the dead suspect loophole, which is a black hole for information when it comes to transparency in law enforcement. And so I'm committed to getting that done as well. You know, in Southeast Texas, I can tell you we care about four things, which is God, the Second Amendment, babies, and the border. And we've done great things on religious liberty. We've done phenomenal work on the Second Amendment. We've done phenomenal work on pro-life legislation in the state of Texas. We have a long way to go on the border. And sometime next week, we are going to file a bill that is going to, I hope, make national headlines and change the conversation on border security, and hopefully take the battle all the way to the Supreme Court and allow Texas to protect its own border. Again, I think we can probably do this with less dollars than the 4.6. I think we can bring our troopers home, we can bring home our game wardens, we can bring home our National Guard, and take the fight to the border ourselves. And I can tell you that I went to D.C. this last spring to lobby for the well over $8 billion we've spent on border security. I got a full commitment from the Texas delegation. Should they ever take the Senate back, Mr. Graham, if you're welcome to go back to the Senate anytime, that they will reimburse us the dollars spent on the border. I asked for $8 billion. Now it's going to be somewhere around $13 billion. Higher education, I think we have some wonderful wins coming in higher education, particularly when it comes to junior colleges. And let me tell you why. House Bill 8 was filed this week by Gary Van Dever, and what that does is it's going to completely change the way we fund junior colleges in the state of Texas. They're going to be outcome-based, meaning as your graduates are hired, the more they're paid, the more you get from the state of Texas. And listen, I love a good ceramics degree, and I think pottery is great. But we need welders, we need nurses, we need law enforcement, we need dental hygienists, you name it, and that's what we're going to fund going forward. I'm very excited about it. We're going to reduce tuition in a lot of these junior colleges as well as they become successful, and that's important because the junior colleges are first-generation college students. This is their way out of a job and into a career, and more importantly, many of them are learning while they earn, which means they are working while they go to school. So anything we can do on tuition rates, I think, is very impactful. Data privacy, y'all know what this is about. If you're not a parent, you probably don't understand how scary the world is now. I don't have my phone with me, but sitting over there, that little black thing and what it brings into your home that you don't know about, or maybe you do know about it. But the data they're collecting, the data they're selling, the information they're pirating from your phone, especially about your children, should keep you up at night. And we're going to do something about it. Texas is going to draw a line in the sand and say, if you want to do business in Texas, you're going to do it the way we want you to do it, or you can get out. And so Representative Capriglione, Representative Slauson have two different bills, House Bill 4 and House Bill 18, that will deal with data and empowering parents and keeping, more importantly, children safe while they're online. A question was asked in public education this past week by a Democrat: what is causing all this violence in schools? Not just the ones you see, like Uvalde, but what are the fighting? You know, the lack of conflict resolution, the lack of a conversation with children with their teachers. And an expert said, without a doubt, it's these apps, it's social media. Back in the day when you got bullied, when you got home, it was over. You went and played in the backyard, you went and rode around on a bike. This thing follows you everywhere you go. It's there when you wake up, it's there when you go to sleep. There's no getting away from the social media. We are giving children crack cocaine and their brains cannot handle it. It is a whole new world than any of us dealt with back in the day. And so it's time to take a long, hard look at it. You know, these aren't easy decisions. None of this is going to be a layup or I would say an easy task in the Texas House. There's 149 House members, and if you ask someone what school choice means to 149 House members, you get 149 answers. You ask them what data privacy is, you'll get 149 different answers. So that's what the next 90 days are all about. And my job is to referee this as best I can, herd these feral cats as best I can, and deliver conservative results for the state of Texas. Again, happy Independence Day. Thank you all for having me. God bless you. God bless this state.